19 minutes to 8. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, it's May Day, and in line with that theme, we will be taking a look at the workforce. So many perspectives about that, actually. So Dixon Jubril joins us now. He's a national coordinator. Do it right. Thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me on your program.
Well, I do know that if you ask workers out there, there's always going to be lamentations here and there about what they seem to be going through, how the economy is at the moment. It will never end. But in spite of all, they just have to keep doing what they're doing with a view to improving their lot. But you're the national coordinator of Do It Right. First and foremost, what is Do It Right? What do you guys do?
Well, thank you for that question. First of all, Do It Right Nigeria is, what would I say? I'll say a mindset orientation campaign to get Nigerians, to encourage Nigerians to love the country, to change their perception and mindset from the negative state in which we find a whole lot of Nigerians are locked in. Because if you look at the country the way it is, you discover that there's so much resentment, anger on the part of the people, and this resentment, anger, as you may call it, has led to a whole lot of negativity in the country. We have so much violence going on in the country, and this is as a result of people having lost faith in the country, or people being angry with the state, angry with their leaders, angry with their neighbors. And so we felt as concerned Nigerians to say, why can't we do something to encourage people to bring back that love which is missing in Nigeria? Because we feel if people begin to change their perception from this negative state it is, I tell you, there are a whole lot of negative things going on. For example, I tell you, the simple one is this. Nigerians over the years have been doing so much negative things to the point that it has come to the point where negative thing is now like a way of life. For example, I tell you, somebody wakes up in the morning every day, he dashes across the highway. He's been doing that for several years.
While going to work?
Yes, while going to work, while going anywhere, and you have a pedestrian bridge close by, he doesn't use it. And that same man, in his negative state, will fail to queue and act orderly. You see, because he's locked in this negative mindset. That same man will go to work and not have any qualms, issue about bribing someone. And that same man, because of this negative perception, will not think twice if somebody comes and meets his immediate need to turn into an agent of violence, just like we have so much violence in the country.
And I imagine that they justify all these actions when you approach them.
Yes, they'll justify it. They'll tell you that, look, after all, look at the country. What are our leaders doing? And so, but I tell you what, you cannot burn down this country simply because of one problem or the other. You see, society evolves. This is our own process of evolution. The most established societies, the developed societies of this world will tell you, the founders of this society will tell you that they've also passed through similar process. The issue is this. Fine, we understand your expectations may not have been met. Government may not have provided certain things that you want, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do the little things that you expected. For example, the rains are here. We will have flood everywhere. Now it will be easy. Still in that negative mindset thing. When flood comes, you see people blame government. It's easy to blame government that, oh, you've not provided certain basic infrastructure. But then, I tell you what, the little things that we're supposed to do, like even the little drainage system we have this habit of throwing trash in it. And when rain comes, it's even when some people will go out and bring a whole lot of their trash bin and dump it in it. And so when this thing happens, it happens, you now discover that the drainage will be blocked and flood comes. Rather than look at their attitude and say, okay, the little things have not done right, it's as a result, it's now leading to flood. You just look at government and say, oh, it's because government has not provided this.
Is Do It Right focusing on the people, the governed, or do you also sermonize or approach the government to also do it right?
We are talking to every Nigerian.
Every Nigerian.
Yes, and if we say every Nigerian, the leaders included, because nobody, you see, nation building is a collective responsibility between the people and government. So when we say Nigerians, we mean our leaders, because if we do it right, from our own little areas where I live. I keep my environment clean, and then we behave right. We adopt certain positive attitudes. The leaders too will follow suit, because it's infectious. If I can reach you, I encourage you. You reach the next man, you encourage the next man, and then we can effect that change.
It would seem to me like you're undertaking a very gargantuan, a really big project, if you ask me, because some people will say almost an impossible project, because how do you intend to begin to change attitudes? A host of people will tell you that it usually starts from the top and not from the tail.
You see, that's the mistake. We can't target a set of people and assume that they have, fine, we understand the leaders may have the capacity to effect change faster than you and I because of their enormous resources, because of their position in the society. But I tell you what, everyone must do certain things right, must act, because like I said, in your own little domain, keep it clean, and the next man keeps his domain clean. You discover we'll have a clean environment. While we're doing that, we adopt this positive attitude. The government will be encouraged. Our leaders will be encouraged, because if the people act right, don't forget that for every misdeed or act of corruption, act of violence, you have several other people contributing to make it work. I tell you, we have a whole lot of, one of the biggest challenges we have in the country today is that of violence. And a whole lot of Nigerians have well articulated their opinions about how best to resolve this. But I tell you, you see, when people behave in certain ways that are not patriotic, which violence is also one of them, it's as a result of certain things happening. When people are locked in that negative mindset, they tell, okay, you have an army of teeming youths, little bit educated, they're unemployed, and nobody's talking to them. If there's no form of intervention that rehabilitate, educate, empower them, you discover that that lull, that nobody is talking to them either as individuals or government, the unpatriotic, the enemies of the state will take advantage of that and meet the immediate needs of these people, of this army of youth, and then turn them into agents of violence. That's what we're having. It's not far-fetched, because the same people perpetrating violence in the country today are the same set of people who have been living with us over the last 10 years, and they're not throwing bombs.
So what you're hoping to achieve is, or what you're hoping to do is just speak to people, and you're hoping that attitudes will change?
The message, yes, the message, you have to keep at it. We have to meet the people at their point of convergence. For example, we're using this medium now. We'll deploy all media platforms. We'll use all advertising platforms. We'll keep passing the message. The thing is, there must be a process in place, either from the individual perspective, like what we're doing, or from government, that keep reminding people. Don't forget that patriotism is encouraged and not enforced. We must encourage our people to adopt certain positive attitudes so that they behave right. And when they behave right, they are easily governed. And then we can collectively build a new Nigeria and build a Nigeria of our dreams.
You know, today, May Day, workers time for them to reflect on so many other issues, and time for us to also look at some of those things that government have put in, governments now have put in so many kind of mechanisms at the local, state, and even federal level. But one that has actually been there, almost like do it right, was Servicom. They had Servicom, which they say it was all about your service delivery from such a civil service or establishment. If we're to look at that, you would say it hasn't worked perfectly well. It hasn't achieved the desired result.
Yes.
And going back to what Mark has asked, if you thought that just talking will bring about that same change, perhaps maybe there's also the negative attitude that's making me ask this kind of question. Maybe I'm just skeptical, and I don't believe that mere talking would take us out of this whole scenario you've painted.
Yeah, you see, when over the years you've been exposed to things not working, you have this mindset that will anything ever work? That's the state, that's the situation we're in now, presently in the country, because not just Servicom, if you look at other sectors of the country, so many establishments, so many agencies have not functioned properly, have not even delivered the objectives for which these agencies are set up. And over the years, people have now come to arrive at this conclusion: will anything ever work in this country? So that also informs the negative perception, because it's a negative, it can only lead to a negative state of mind. Now, we will keep talking in the sense that it is the word, it's only messages that can change and transform a man from the state he is into another state. You must tell somebody, if you tell somebody that, yes, if you do this, this is the desired outcome. You see, going back to the question you asked about the enormity of the challenge we've decided to take, you see, we are not daunted by the enormity of the challenge. The reason you felt it's so big, it's because you're looking Nigeria within the context of the landmass. But I tell you, we are all units of the country. If I change, you change, he changes. You discover that 160 million Nigerians, if we take one step, it's just a step. If I take the step, you take the step, and we all take 160 million steps at the same time, what will happen? We'll effect that change. And that means the man saddled with the responsibility of running an organization agency like Servicom, if he adopt a positive attitude and say, yes, I've decided to change for the better, and say, okay, fine, this government said I should do this, these are my responsibilities, and I'm going to do that. So it's that change we're talking about. If the change is you see, there's need for self-transformation. It must start from you.
Yeah, but there are people, in spite of all, who are doing the right things. You have people who, they are constantly under pressure, and some of them cave in under this pressure.
Yeah.
Do you reach out to those people also, because it looks as though it's increasingly difficult for them to keep doing the right thing?
Now, the reason it's becoming difficult is because this set of people who are doing it right now are just minority out of the whole lot of people in the country. You have over 160 million. For example, let's say in an establishment like this, you have probably maybe over 200 staff, and you have 2 or 3 people trying to effect change. It's going to be difficult. So it means everyone will have to take that step. You have to take the step, and we'll need to have almost all the 200 and so plus staff take that all-important step. And the step starts from self-transformation, to agree that, yes, am I at the point where, in spite of everything going on, do I need Nigeria to become greater? Because we can't allow Nigeria to keep sliding into the state of
we're
hopelessness.
almost a religious people when we speak, and everywhere you go, there's hardly no street you don't get to see one religious house, be it a mosque or a church.
Yes.
And people go there. If the man who goes into the mosque 5 times daily, and the man who goes for fellowship almost on a daily basis still comes out while doing terrible things, what message would you be telling that same man who hasn't listened to what he's been told in the church or in the mosque?
Now we have to go back to the fundamental. Why is he doing terrible things? Why is he doing terrible? Why has that same man who 10 years ago is not doing these terrible things, why has he suddenly become an agent of violence?
We should, that question is pretty deep, because we'll address it from different layers of society. Some people will say it all sometimes starts from the family. Sometimes some people are born that way, so that even within the family where almost all the children are good, you still find one child who's just a deviant.
Yes.
So do you also try to reach out to those kind of people? Because I was thinking of an example, and one of the things I thought was that usually, say, for the BRT bus, a host of people will queue, and people think that that's the right thing to do. You find them queue, but you then see some people who see the queue and prefer to go and enter from the front. How do you deal? Is it that they did not see the example set by everybody else who's standing on that queue, and going to the front of the bus to go and try and jump the queue?
2 things here. It just tells you, one, that there's no perfect situation. Even the developed societies, you see, it's still a process in the making. There's no ideal situation. That means you still have 1 or 2 exceptional cases, people who maybe by nature, like you said, were born that way. But if you have majority of the people doing something in this direction, then you know that that thing is working. For example, let's say go back to the example you made, that if you get to the BRT park, you see a whole lot of, majority of the passengers queue. They queue, and if one out of the lot, of course, which is expected, that means you still have certain people who by nature, but not as a result of not being reached out to or being told that this thing is right or wrong, it's just as a result of their nature. But again, we're saying what we want, a situation at Do It Right Nigeria, is that let's not be selective in our application of justice, in our application of what is right or what we need to do. For example, if you queue at VRT Park to board a VRT bus, why not take that same attitude when you get to other places where you need service and you meet a whole lot of people? One man can start the change. Encourage people. Why? Okay, instead of having a rowdy situation, why not? Let's do this. But the problem is, we're all in a hurry.
Isn't that why? Sorry to bust in here. I said that we should also be talking about starting from the top, because you jump out of an aircraft in another country, you see the same Nigerian who dashes across the street where you have a pedestrian bridge. He conforms. He stays in line. But back home, if we had leaders who have shown examples, when they say you talk the talk, you walk the talk rather, and at the end of the day, you can see it. It's evident in what you do.
Yes.
Don't you think that the average Nigerian is trying to sell your own talk will definitely fall in line when he sees that his leader is actually living by example?
Yes, we will talk to the leaders. We'll get to the leaders as well, because in every society there are role models. People, for example, you talk about churches, mosques. I'm sure the man.
Do we have role models in Nigeria?
Yeah, we still have, because if people still go to church and you have churches with large congregations, because fine, apart from the officiating minister being the man of God, he's still the